What is going on off the Mike Sports Network here? Some more NFL content. The big news out of Cleveland Browns camp. First of all, Christopher Maloney, Stabler, was at camp. Apparently a Colorado alum, so he might have been there to support Shedeur Sanders. But hey, Stabler was on site, so that was pretty cool. But that was Tuesday. On Monday, the Browns made a quarterback decision. This was not surprising unless you're one of these Shedeur ball washers or you're one of these people saying that the Browns needed to play a rookie quarterback to start the season. And forgive me, I'm actually opening up the Browns schedule here while we are doing this. But so Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns week 1 in their opener against the Cincinnati Bengals. And to me, this was the only decision to make. This was the only decision to make for the Cleveland Browns to go into the season with the guy who took them to the playoffs a couple years ago. I understand he ended up in Indianapolis last year and it was a train wreck. Let me be clear. The Browns are not going to be good this year. They are not going to be good. They've also had a bunch of injuries with Kenny Pickett's been dealing with injuries throughout training camp. Shedeur Sanders is dealing with an oblique injury. He was supposed to start over the weekend against Philadelphia. That didn't happen. Dillon Gabriel looked okay, but he had a couple of turnovers. Listen, they weren't going to start a rookie quarterback week 1. For all you people who are trying to advocate for Shedeur Sanders to start right away, the guy was a 5th round pick. He was a decent college quarterback, but like I said, he was just above 500 in the NFL. Or in the pros. And yes, he has a famous last name. He has a famous dad, but that was kind of the detriment. And he didn't stand out very much physically or, from a mechanics perspective to ultimately warrant being the starting quarterback. Yes, I understand Joe Flacco is 40. And, the Browns may, in a lot of respects, like I said, they're not going to be good. I don't necessarily know if they are trying to win. But so this is why, and let me just kind of try and educate some people here on exactly why this decision was made. Number one, I don't think Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders are ready to play for week 1. Do I think that they would that one or both of those guys would warrant a start at some point this season because the Browns need to see what they have? Absolutely. Absolutely. I do not think that this is a situation where Joe Flacco is going to start the entire season. He's not. Like, it's a good stopgap start, but here's the reality of the situation. Let me read you guys the early season for the Browns schedule. So, on September 7th, they opened the season with the Cincinnati Bengals at home. The Bengals, say what you will about them, and they're not a good starting team. That's a rivalry game, and you're going to need an experienced quarterback out of the gate. So you're starting the season there. Then you're at Baltimore. Good luck in that game. They're going to probably get absolutely destroyed September 14th at Baltimore. Then they play at home against Green Bay. The Packers are a really good team. Then they're at Detroit. Detroit was the number 1 seed in the NFC, one of the best teams in the NFL last year. Good luck with that in Detroit. Then you're in London facing the Vikings. And then you're at Pittsburgh. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, your first 6 games. The Browns will be lucky to potentially get 1, maybe 2 wins in that stretch. And if you start a rookie quarterback, you're going 0-6. So, again, like I said, I don't know if they're necessarily trying to win, but there's a fine line. Because if you want to see if one of these guys can do the job, why don't you actually just have them learn behind a veteran, behind a Super Bowl champion in Joe Flacco, a guy who has taken this team to the playoffs and has thrived in Kevin Stefanski's system? Why not do that? Why not start the season there, see what Joe Flacco does through at least the first couple of games of this season? And then once you get past Pittsburgh, you've got Miami. You've got 3 AFC East teams. You've got Miami, who I think is going to be kind of overrated, the Patriots with a new coach, and then you have the Jets with a new quarterback. That's a good point in the season to potentially see what you have. Out of the gate, I just don't think that that's a great idea for the Cleveland Browns to ultimately start the season with one of their rookie picks. And that being said, I'm not even necessarily sure if either one of these guys, and that includes Shedeur Sanders, are going to be the future quarterback of this franchise. All these people just trying and ready to anoint Shedeur Sanders as like the savior of this franchise. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard until I am blue in the face that this guy is the savior of this team. And listen, Joe Flacco was brought in to start the season. When he got brought in, even when Kenny Pickett was there, when Joe Flacco was brought in, I always thought that was going to be the starter week one, no matter who they took as a rookie. And then when Shedeur was available, I was like, listen, especially being a fifth-round pick, and if you guys are mad that he's third or fourth on the depth chart, that's just the reality of the situation. And maybe Kenny Pickett gets an opportunity too, because like I said, he's only been in the league for a few seasons. So maybe you give him an opportunity and then you go to the rookies. But to me, I think it would be a catastrophic mistake if you went to one of those rookies right out of the gate. And anybody who's trying to tell you otherwise doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Seeing what you have is different, but this is not the same thing as like, Cam Ward in Tennessee. He's the clear starter. He is the very clear starter. Also injuries and stuff, and they might have tried to project maybe that Will Levis could have been a starting. But listen, this is not one of those situations where, hey, a natural comparison that you could potentially make is Dak Prescott. Tony Romo was dealing with an injury, and Dak Prescott stood out in the preseason. God, that feels like an eternity ago, by the way. Russell Wilson, another good example. Outplayed. And maybe some people could justify and, try to say, hey, maybe the Browns are trying to minimize his reps because they don't want to do. Listen, they know what they have to do in the early portions of the season. And if you put Shedeur Sanders out there, week 1, Cincinnati, week 2, like I said, I read you those first 4 games. Cincinnati, they could win because they're not very good outside of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But then Baltimore, you ain't winning that game. You're not winning at Detroit. Green Bay at home, maybe, but Green Bay's a really good football team too. And then you go to London and play the Vikings. The Vikings, yeah, they have essentially a rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy, and then, you're at Pittsburgh, and yeah, you don't know what you're going to get with Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's got talented players and a veteran team and a veteran coach. So listen, I don't know where this whole thing is going. I don't know what direction they're going to end up landing on, but I do think that the rookies, Dillon, Gabriel, and or Shedeur Sanders, one or both of them are going to play this season. They will. They absolutely will. But Joe Flacco, this was the only decision for the Browns and Kevin Stefanski to make out of the gate. So that's my Browns thoughts on that. We'll have a lot more coming on the channel. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.